Before we talk about roosters and fences, we need to talk about yards. Now, every yard got rules, even when nobody writes them down. There's where you strut, where you scratch, where you rest, and where you don't cross unless you mean to stay. See, a yard ain't just dirt and grass. A yard is agreement. It's where you say, I belong here, and I'll tend what belongs to me. And long ago, not so long it don't still happen, there was a rooster who loved a yard, but never loved the work of keeping it whole. Oh, he crowed just fine. Chest out, feathers bright, voice loud enough to wake the sun. Everybody knew he was there. That wasn't the problem. The problem was the fence. That fence had a weak place, a little break, a loose board, a gap just wide enough for a rooster who didn't like feeling crowded to slip through when things got heavy, when the hens got quiet, when the air asked questions, when care required more than noise. Instead of mending the fence, he learned the hole, slipped out when the yard needed him most, slipped back in when it felt easy again, in and out, gone and back and gone. And every time he left, the yard changed a little. Not loud changes, quiet ones. The grass learned not to wait for his scratching. The hens learned how to settle themselves at night. The gate, oh, the gate stayed right where it was, solid, open, meant for coming and going with intention. But the rooster never learned the gate. He thought the hole was freedom, thought slipping away meant he still had control, didn't realize that every time he chose the hole, he was teaching the yard how to live without him. And that, my dear, is where this story begins. Because one day, the hole won't be there anymore. And when a rooster returns to a yard he didn't tend, he finds something worse than rejection. He finds completion. Rooster Man ruled his yard by sound, not by care, not by tending, not by knowing the rhythm of the hens, but by crowing. Every morning he strutted the fence line, chest puffed, feathers bright, announcing himself to the sun as if noise alone kept the world in order. The hens watched him with one eye open and the other half closed. They had learned that crowing was not the same as guarding. When the yard grew too busy, when the hens needed warmth or attention or steadiness, Rooster Man felt a tightening in his chest. Something in him panicked when closeness arrived. That was when he slipped away, through a narrow hole at the back of the fence. It wasn't a gate, it wasn't meant for leaving, but Rooster Man had found it long ago and decided it was his escape. When things became uncomfortable, when words were required, when responsibility knocked, he ducked through that hole and vanished. The hens noticed. They noticed how he returned later, acting as if he had never left. They noticed how he pretended the hole did not exist. They noticed how he never tried to fix it. And still, for a time, they stayed. The hens were not foolish. They knew the yard needed tending. They knew storms came whether one crowed or not. They began using the front gate, a wide open thing meant for entering and leaving with awareness. The gate required pausing. It required looking. It required choosing to stay or go with intention. Rooster Man didn't like the gate. The gate made him feel exposed. The gate asked him to explain himself. The gate required presence, so he kept using the hole. Whenever the hens tried to show him the gate, he grew confused and defensive. "Why do you need all that?" he crowed. "The hole works just fine." But the hole only worked for him. When the hens needed him, he was gone. When they asked questions, he crowed louder. When they grew quiet, he panicked, but still ran. Slowly, the hens stopped chasing him to the fence. They began tending the yard themselves. One season, after Rooster Man had disappeared for too long, the hens repaired the fence, not out of anger, out of clarity. They closed the hole carefully, weaving wire and wood and patience into the space where Rooster Man had once fled. When he returned and found the hole gone, panic rose in his throat. He circled the fence, crowing louder than ever. He scratched at the boards. He demanded entry without explanation. The hens stood inside the yard and pointed gently to the gate. But Rooster Man did not understand the gate. The gate required words. The gate required accountability. The gate required him to be seen, and he had never learned how. While Rooster Man paced outside the fence, a new rooster entered through the gate. This one did not crow first. He walked the yard slowly. He fixed what was broken. He stood watch when storms came. The hens did not rush him. They did not test him. They simply noticed that they felt safe. Rooster Man watched from outside, bewildered. The yard no longer responded to his noise. No one came running when he crowed. No one chased him when he fled. For the first time, Rooster Man felt the weight of silence, and he did not know what to do with it. Now Aunt Nancy leaned back in her chair, spider silk catching the light, and said, "See, child, a rooster who won't mend his fence don't lose his yard overnight. He lose it one quiet morning when nobody come check on him no more." She chuckled soft. "Some folks got a hole where a heart ought to be. They run through it every time love knock too loud, and then they wonder why the door get locked." Aunt Nancy tapped the table. "Gate folk ain't cruel. They just tired of patching holes somebody else refused to fix."